Welp, it's that time once again. The 3rd year anniversary of Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Now this movie has been responsible for the very creation of my channel, as I have continually gone over the movie, how great I find it in virtually every aspect, to the narrative, to the emotions, to the characters, that I have found it the most relatable story I have ever seen, and one of the movies that has left the biggest impact on my life. And I'm just going to use a clip from my last anniversary video that I feel best showcase what this movie meant to me in that way. Its extraordinary animation, lighting, and art design and aesthetic, to its music, original and licensed, but it's really the story and the characters that mean so much to me. I've covered how much I love Ruby and personally relate to her. I adore her arc of growth and maturity. Being a person who deals with so much anxiety and self-doubt, learning to get confidence with herself and stand up against the world and others, and that you can't avoid your responsibility. You can have the courage to face it and find the good in it. I did not talk for this long about the movie for nothing. You know everything I talked about and how it's true. Sometimes, I feel like I'm genuinely the only person in the world who understands and appreciates the depths of this movie and found a legitimate, emotional, and relatable connection to it. Even people who like this movie, to me, I don't feel understand it in a way I do. I don't just like it for Shelby or the cool Kraken world, I love it for how much it personally spoke to me. I have never had a protagonist I related more to than Ruby. I'm gonna get really real here, but as someone who's lived on the spectrum, I understand how it's like to just feel different than other people and try to act normal in public, especially during my school days. Now, I only really had a handful of friends I trusted and could relate to. And the constant social anxiety from everyday confrontations and the pressures from social norm, and completely crippling insecurities for myself and others that there's something fundamentally wrong with me, forces suppressed tendencies and urges so people think I'm normal.
I make sure no one notices all the ways that I am different. I push my hair in front of my gills and I stand like I have a spine. It's hard.
I feel like I've been in so many situations she's been in. Ruby often has extreme anxiety when faced with anything outside her norm, from literally interacting with new people to suddenly being faced with a big responsibility, which again is another thing I relate to. So many times I fall apart in stressful situations with such anxiety and fear if I can really handle it or my future. Like, I'm going to graduate school this fall, I'm terrified, I don't know if I can handle it. And so many people wanting what feels best for you and pave your life for you, but it doesn't feel right. People want luxury without responsibility, just like how Ruby does, but you can't do that. You need to grow up and face it head on because life stops for no one. And Ruby learns that it's not so bad. Growing up is the nightmare it feels like. You can handle it, and not only that, you'll make your own way in life, your own new identity, and thrive. You're an individual and you can take charge of your own life. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Your insecurities are just doubt that's holding you back. You can do so much more than you think you can, because you can achieve greatness. You can go big. I have never seen a movie that fundamentally spoke to me and actually inspired me and has even helped me through some issues. Even other similarly themed movies I did not relate to nearly as much. For a movie people constantly deem as uninspired and pointless, I found a movie that genuinely touched me in a way no movie has or done so since. DreamWorks is famous for dealing with imposter syndrome, feeling that you don't belong in a society or that you don't deserve your place in the world. And Ruby is really no different, and to me, hit the most hard. I found it such an engaging and beautiful story that doesn't nearly get the credit and love it deserves. And yeah, because of it, every single year I try to make a big video to encompass my feelings on the movie, the in-depth thoughts and detail I go into, and all the great aspects I find in it, and defending against the criticism it gets, with the ultimate goal to bring more awareness of this movie and to show its really great aspects that feel so fundamentally unappreciated. But I've done 3 videos that are an hour or longer every year, and I could do another one like that, but I feel I should take a new approach to show appreciation for this movie. After all, I'm not the only person who loves this movie, as it has its own community of people, and I want to dedicate this anniversary to those people, the others who share my feelings on the movie and also love it in their own way for their own reasons. I don't want to make it sound like I'm the only person who likes it, so I'm going to give a voice to the other fans of the movie and talk about their feelings on it and showcase them, and give my own thoughts about what they say. Now, I had this through an open Google Forms where anyone could submit, but unfortunately I didn't have much time to make and share it only in the last few weeks, thanks to a very intense grad school semester taking up all my time until May, and also very bad timing from other videos I had to work on as soon as I was out. I tried to complete the animatic as quickly as I could to make some Ruby Gillman content to get attention so I could post the forum, but that took a while and didn't get that big of a reach. And then I tried to do the big DreamWorks world ranking, which I was sure would get a big audience that could spread the word about it, but unfortunately no one watches it because YouTube freaking hates me. So yeah, due to the circumstances outside of my control, I couldn't really share it as much as I wanted. I'm gonna go through the ones entered and give my own reflections on what's said. So yeah, I want to give back to the community and show off more of the voices in this fandom. This is my own, to shake up the anniversary format. And let's see why the fandom loves Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Now, I've got quite a few responses of varying lengths, so to ease into it, I'll just start with the shortest and work my way through the longer ones. These are also done with complete anonymity and don't have corresponding users to credit with. Also, this is going to mostly be my own commentary, reading comments and giving my thoughts. And honestly, the longer ones near the end really surprised me with their analysis and thoughts. So, starting with the smaller ones, genuinely heavily underrated and did not deserve to bomb at the box office. Yeah, I definitely agree there. It's pretty much been my whole motivation to make this channel, just to make the original Why Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is actually a great video all those years ago. I just felt like you need to speak out for it and give it more attention than it got. I mean, I also go into my theory on what happened, that I believe the marketing was actively sabotaged by Universal, by Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer, with the clause that it could be the only movie released in a 3-week window, which Ruby felt right under. So it probably sabotaged it that way. Plus the fact that summer of 2023 was also filled with other bombs, since there were dozens of blockbusters trying to compete with each other, and Ruby arguably got it the worst with its lack of marketing. So really, everything was out to get this movie. I still have hope though, because it's basically in a Road to El Dorado situation, where that was also unknown, badly received, and bombed, but now it's a massive cult classic amongst animation fans, so there's hope. Just hope it comes sooner rather than later. I love how the animation looks. I don't think I've seen this art style before. Yeah, genuinely, I love how this movie looks. Even on both an animation and art style approach. I've already gone into a lot of my previous videos, but I love how literally every shot of the set design ties to an aquatic theme, to the brilliant use of color and shading. I especially love how the giant krakens are designed with a perfect blend of cute but also badassery. And yeah, the animation seriously deserves praise because of the krakens, how they have really good squash and stretch with their animation that makes them fittingly squiddy but stand out from the humans. Especially Ruby, who's very leggy and over the top with her movements. No wonder it was nominated for an Annie for character animation. This type of cartoonish animation in 3D is actually really difficult and rare. But you know, people don't care because for some ungodly reason, animation fans just want animation to be as real as possible. So these cartoonish animations are treated with hatred. I've even seen the human characters get hate, which I find really stupid because they're like a mix of Hotel Transylvania and Aardman. I think it's the perfect blend of cartoonish variety but still being recognizable as humans, so the Krakens feel different but reasonably connected. It's a tight balance, but I think it did it well, but of course it doesn't get the credit it deserves. I find it to be criminally underrated and has potential for a follow-up series. Definitely, like, out of all the DreamWorks spin-off series, this one by far has the most potential. Like to do stuff for freaking Home or Turbo, but Ruby has serious potential in its DNA. They already set up a world of oceanic threats that Ruby has to fight with her Kraken abilities, all the new foes, discovery, Laura's adventures, new powers and characters, and balanced high school. It's like the best setup for a show ever. It would literally just be like those 2000s era shows like Danny Phantom or American Dragon, or How My Life as a Teenage Robot, which it's so much like already. It's why I feel My Life as a Teenage Kraken animatics work so well, because these properties have that similar DNA. I still hope it can eventually. I mean, if Megamind can get an out-of-nowhere resurgence years later and get a show, it's possible. I mean, that show sucked, but like, it could still be good. Put me on it, DreamWorks, I can do it so well. What I enjoy the most about is Ruby Gillman herself. She's built a knife through your hole in my heart. Ruby herself is genuinely one of the things I love the most about this movie. As I said, she's the most relatable and lovable protagonist I've ever seen, and has become one of my favorite characters. The movie wouldn't work nearly as well to me without her and how she's written. And also, as a big How to Train Your Dragon fan, I can definitely relate to the last part. I would like at least the Ruby Gillman TV series, a Ruby Gillman graphic novel, and some Ruby Gillman merch like toys, plushes, etc. Yeah, completely preaching to the choir here. I already went over how a series is perfect, but how even a comic would work, because as I said, there's so much potential to expand this world in any sort of direction. It's crazy. Also, yeah, I would literally kill for any sort of merchandise. It's while this show is absolutely nothing outside of the art book, which I do cherish as one of my most precious possessions, but still, you think she gets something. Even Wild Robot got a YouTube's limited plush. It does contribute to what I said, that I theorized the marketing was actively sabotaged, since there's no merch or promotions whatsoever. Come on, please give me anything, DreamWorks. The concept of a Kraken girl with powers protecting the sea and in turn the town she lives in from danger makes good for a sequel and series so easy. Yeah, Ruby's powers are so unique and cool, like even for Krakens, how they reinvent them and give them new abilities like body armor and lasers that somehow roughly fit into the oceanic biology is so damn cool. Like, I haven't seen something like this. It's just a good idea, right, for potential, and does a good job in subverting the expected evil Kraken design, just a giant squid that squeezes things. It works so well for expansion. I just pray something actually happens with it. I haven't watched it since I first saw it in March 2024. I found it great. I love the characters, the designs, the colors, everything. It got me to writing new fanfictions. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I love all those things too, but I'm happy it also inspired you to writing new fanfiction. I'm always happy when media like this can inspire you to make new content, from art to writing to anything in between. Because again, this movie is ripe for expansion and development with what it sets up. I hope you're enjoying yourself with it. I like Ruby Gillman because it has a very relatable protagonist and the realism and graphics are very cool. Oh, and also the powers of the Krakens are very unique in a way that makes it very awesome and cool. I hope that this can spread the word around. Yeah, pretty much exactly what I've been saying. This movie is just a good setup with the Krakens and Ruby as a character. But I don't really expect a lot of reach for this video. It's mostly just a more community celebration thing that makes up the usual anniversary video format and give other people a voice. But it makes me happy to reach a lot of other people that have the same feelings as I do. An extremely underrated movie that got done so unbelievably dirty. It's visually appealing, one of DreamWorks' best looking movies of the decade so far, and the story, while basic, is not bad or boring in the slightest. It's a pretty fun time overall. I will never get over how this movie was done absolutely dirty by literally everything, from marketing, competition, scheduling, and the critical audience, especially the online one. I mostly blame Puss in Boots too because that movie is treated like the second coming, so this movie following up on it got people so unreasonably pissed, and it's one of the reasons why I legitimately hate the impact that movie had on the media landscape. The fact that Ruby was more low-key and more about personal character growth in the backdrop of an urban fantasy was probably why people expecting the next masterpiece hate it so much. I wouldn't really consider it basic though, at least not too much, as I've gone over my other videos, but I definitely think it's enjoyable for most people who actually give it a chance. And yeah, the animation on parts is extraordinary. Why isn't it talked about so much more? I hate it. I adore the animation and love Agatha and Chelsea's character. Honestly, I wish Chelsea and Nerissa were different characters and Agatha and Grandma were wrong about her. This way the mermaids and Krakens get along forever. I also love the writing in every character in the film. Yeah, I love how the film handled it too, especially Agatha. Like, this is a lot better than the people say if they give it a chance. Through the whole Chelsea and Nerissa debate, I feel it's where a lot of people are split on the movie because how well Chelsea and Ruby's dynamic was, and they resent it for it. However, I don't think just one way to change the story is necessarily perfect. As I dived into before, they have their own complications in the narrative. The thing you have to remember, Ruby did legitimately want peace. She did not want to fight, and there was confirmed to be some truth in Chelsea's sympathy to Ruby.
Bruise that she had, her battle was with her mom and her grandmother, and, she might at that moment have really understood what it feels to be alone, because we don't know if Chelsea/Nerissa doesn't feel these things at all, too. I mean, she's really, she is alone. This whole speech she gives is real.
Yeah.
The mermaids are hiding. Yeah. She does feel alienated.
Yeah.
So that moment of connection could genuinely,
As I said, it was only Nerissa at the end who continued the war, and it was solely her choice, even when Ruby gave her multiple chances to still make up. Ruby still feels like she would advocate for peace, but will stop active threats if we won't back down. And it also implies that she did manage to change her parents' minds and help Grandma to become more sympathetic, so I still feel it works. It's why I hate the rewrite mentality, because there's a lot more to juggle than some doofus online thinks there is. I like the idea of a secret urban fantasy with the ocean, because I've seen the trailer, though not my favorite movie, basically for the plot. The art style is very good and creative. I would like to see lore more about the humans and Krakens living together, and how this secret worked in the past or something similar. Honestly, yeah, an oceanic urban fantasy is a super untapped market. Like, the only thing you see is maybe mermaids, which this movie actively subverts. So yeah, the lore potential in this world is so great, especially with humanity's history with oceanic monsters. What if they tie it to the Greek myths with Andromeda and the sea monster? It could be awesome. And to help it this franchise can continue, it can expand on it. I don't think there was a secret, but just the Kraken and ocean world doesn't let it so humans know about what's going on. I just want to see more of the world of Ruby Gillman. Like, are there other sea monsters? Or are there other creatures or even other Krakens? All this could be explored in a potential TV show, but DreamWorks kind of stopped doing those. So we just need to hope for some kind of fan project that can expand on the ideas. Oh, there are definitely other sea monsters we see in the Kraken Kingdom. They fought Leviathans, Umibozu, Charybdis, Scylla, and a bunch of others. There's a ton of potential here for so much conflicts. It's again why its potential is so great. As for fan project, well, I might have a few ideas. Hopefully something can come from that one day. I love it when a mythological standpoint, it's a movie that really focuses on Krakens as a main character, but they are humans in various aspects. Ruby is a really good influence for people to look up to in the artistic community, and she is honestly cool and badass. The movie definitely deserved better in a sequel. 10 out of 10 movie for me personally. This movie made me seriously love Krakens and how they humanized and added more to them in a way I have never seen in any other media, making them the main character heroes and not just some sort of big monster, and that humanity comes into into play in a lot of the narrative and a lot of the allegory of fitting into a world. And yeah, the autistic allegory is so damn good, like genuinely, Ruby feels so much like an autistic coded character in her attitude, mannerisms, and anxiety. It's one of the reasons I find her so relatable and a good figure. She should be more well known and loved for that alone, and yeah, I hate how it's so buried. Glad you liked it so much and agree with my point of view too. I love this movie ever since I saw it in theaters. I never understood the hate and tried defending it as much as possible, though it wasn't successful. I really loved Ruby herself and deeply related to her as someone who had trouble fitting into society due to my differentness. The fandom, though not large, they're great and talented people. Also want to highlight how incredible the soundtrack is. And to see another person who went to the effort to defend this movie, even if it's such an uphill battle. Glad to see another kindred spirit. Though of course I don't engage much in the fandom, I have seen some exceptional people like Speedonix, who's one of the best Ruby Gillman artists ever. I want to shout them out especially. And it does bring me joy to see people's love and dedication to this movie still, after everything. And the soundtrack is honestly underrated. The original songs are spectacular, especially this moment, and the licensed music is perfect as every single one perfectly fits the scenes and it should be more credited. I got through the Trolls movies and I got so sick of the overused pop soundtracks, so this one being so good deserves so much more. I like how cute and colorful it is, and I do enjoy the setting enough to want a follow-up. Apparently the movie bombed despite okay review scores, making chances for a sequel and a TV show unlikely, but I do want to see the characters develop if there was. I especially think I want to see more of Ruby and Connor's chemistry evolve if possible, and Chelsea and Nerissa's two-faced persona become more three-dimensional. Yeah, as I said, everything was against this movie, and I mean literally everything. I don't think this movie had a single thing in its favor for it during the release. If it did have a good chance in the box office, I guarantee you it would be more loved, at least by general audiences, but unfortunately just the internet nitpickers don't shut up who have given it the bad reputation online now. Still, I mean Megamind wasn't exactly a box office hit either, but eventually its fandom resurgence was enough to let it continue, so it's possible. I do kind of felt that Ruby and Connor were a bit flat, but I feel the movie fixed it by showing the two did love each other. Ruby just needed the confidence in herself to commit to it, and learns to during the course of the movie. And Chelsea does have some nuance from the commentary, which is hard to tell from her ruse, but it does show she's a bit more complicated than she seemed. I like the movie because I don't see it as just another cliche teen movie like Freaky Friday or Turning Red. I liked many scenes, some made me laugh out loud. The characters are good and break the cliches of overprotected mother, rebellious daughter, love triangle, etc. And that movie changed my life because it made me a better person. I have even more to say, but that's what I mean about why I like this movie. Yeah, honestly, this movie deserves far more credit that it actually goes out of its way to subvert a lot of the tire tropes that come from teen coming of age stories. I hate how people ignore it and call it generic because they just allude to it in the first place. Like, genuinely this movie would be so much worse if they did conform to those tropes. I'm glad this movie did manage to make you a better person, though I wonder how. I did want people to dive more into detail with their thoughts, but if that's all you have to say. I love this movie, and honestly my favorite aspect just has to be how much potential it has if it ever continued. This movie needs a TV series, because the potential world building this movie holds just leaves you wanting more. Like perhaps going into the backstories of the characters or the various sea monsters found in the ocean depths. There's so much utter potential and ideas for this series, it needs to be explored. Really love your work by the way. Aw, thanks. Yeah, the world building of this movie has so much potential and it feels like a perfect setup where you can do anything. I've already covered a lot of it from the first Ruby Gillman video, and it makes me pray at least some sort of story continuation can happen, even if it's just a comic or a pitch or something. I don't know how to explain it, but I just love this movie. I think it's because of Ruby herself. She is so cute, and our struggles are just so relatable. Minus the Kraken part, obviously. This movie has given me the insight to not hype on the hate train of a piece of media, and instead make my own opinions on it, or just don't care about it. I may make comments defending the movie sometimes, but I do click dislike stuff that tries at the movie. Am I mean to troll behavior for doing this? Yeah, I genuinely think this is one of the most relatable movies ever, and if it did better at the box office, I guarantee you more people would see that. And also, yeah, because of it, it also helped me to get rid of my own cynical side, because admittedly, I have had a very cynical attitude to media in my past, but this movie and its reception has helped me to realize that attitude is incredibly self-destructive and toxic to an art form I love. So I've dedicated myself to primarily use this channel to spread appreciation for animated works and how they work to try and make things a bit better. And for the last part, you can do that, but, you know, I would advise against any kind of support to toxic hating attitudes in videos, because it mostly just enables it. At first, I never knew about this movie at all, but after I watched it on Netflix, it was great, and I saw this link to a Screenwriting article, and it's amazing how much it was a global hit on Netflix. If there's a chance for DreamWorks to do a sequel, I will find a way to see it. They put on Amazon Prime. That's another thing people don't bring up. Despite the movie's bad box office, thanks to the reasons I've said, it actually did very well on online video and streaming when it came out. People were still wanting to see it. Hell, it was like the highest streamed movie on Netflix when when it came out, like you said. It just sucked that it wasn't given the chance it deserves, and I hope it shows DreamWorks that there still is some demand for it. The premise is amazing. There's just a genuine lack of superhero teenagers in media. I can list a couple. You should definitely spend your time watching these. Example, Pen Zero, Part-Time Hero, American Dragon Jake Long, Randy Cunningham, and many others. I might not be as active in the fandom right now, but thanks to Shady for opening up to this movie for once, because I've heard nothing but backlash from it. Raise a toast to the Gillman fandom, and cheers for a possible sequel. Let's go, Gill fans. That's the thing, it was a lot bigger before. There were a bunch of these urban fantasy teens with shape-shifting powers fighting evil, and I loved them, and I felt like the movie was calling back to it. And thanks for the praise. I'm happy that I can become such a figure in the fandom, even if I wish my videos got more attention. Hate the site. I feel it's a great movie that gets way too much unfair slack, and despite its flaws, it's very much enjoyable. I also believe the Gillman siblings are top DreamWorks comfort characters, with Sam having the most spin-off potential. I do want Sam to be given powers and or more spotlight in the continuation, as I think him being powerless was extremely unfair. I'd also like more people to make positive fan arts of all the character, including the more secondary ones like Ruby's friend group and of course Sam himself. I feel I know what this is. Sam is a fun character, and do love how the movie gives the dude a subplot that comes in clutch at the end. The movie does primarily focus on Ruby, so it makes sense how Sam and the other characters were sidelined, but I still feel the movie did well for what it's trying to go for. But again, that's what would be great to include for a franchise expansion. Though I do think the powers had to work for consistency in the movie, it's a tricky thing to do with power balancing for it. From all the hate it got in the box office failure, I would say it was pretty relatable. The animation was beautiful and talks about some personal stuff in a girl's life that parents don't like talking with their children, and talked about in the best way possible. I also liked how they talked about manipulative relationships for reasons. The plot wasn't even that fast and the timing was better than Hopper's. The jokes were a little funny, but overall it was a good movie, and the internet just needs to shut up sometimes. I don't really see much in the terms of things that parents don't like talking about. It's not like a big puberty metaphor like turning red that just dive into the biological processes. It's more about emotional maturity and responsibility that the movie tackles, and I think does well. And yet the manipulation is a warning, as this stuff is very real, especially in high school, and even though people stupidly take it in the worst way possible, I think it's important to talk about. Honestly, I think the hate for this movie is the most performative shit in the universe. Like, there's so much worse media out there, even in DreamWorks. Like, how does the boss baby come out and be so awful, pandering, and shameless in every way, and these don't even bat an eye? But this movie that has so much artistry, emotions, and quality that actually tries, gets beaten again and again because no one bothers to look past the surface. Like, honestly, the hate for this movie is so damn shallow, and the sooner people realize that, the better. I actually thought the movie was good, and I did see the first trailer when it came out, and I thought it looked interesting despite the lack of marketing. The characters were the highlight for me in the film, especially Ruby. Of course, another highlight is the animation, especially the scenes that involve the ocean. This is a world that has so much potential in storytelling and world expansion, if it were to be to explore another movie or TV series, which sadly does seem unlikely at this point. I really don't understand the extreme hate this movie gets, which I feel is becoming more and more common to happen nowadays for other movies. Honestly, yeah, the trailers drew me right in. I love the premise so much, and even though it idiotically gave away too much, I was hyped for a movie about a shape-shifting Kraken protagonist that would end on a huge kaiju fight. And yeah, the oceanic animation really did a good job with the size and scale of so much of it. It was so gorgeous. There's a whole ocean to explore here, come on. And yeah, honestly, the internet just has become a massive circle jerk of negativity by the community, where like perfected masterpieces like Puss in Boots 2 are praised like the next coming, and anything else that doesn't reach there is treated as shit by the stupid-ass cinematic disaster mentality. It's like we're training ourselves to be much more miserable and mean for no reason. Come on, do you like this art form or not? I never watched the movie, but I will soon if I can get the time to. Your reviews help me get into it. I love the art, and your reviews help really change my way of the art behind animation. But enough yapping about you. But I think from reviews, Ruby Gillman is a really good example of an introvert like myself. I also love when spoiled characters don't act bratty. Chelsea's a great example of this, and manipulation of the popular girls like her, as someone who got manipulated by them. All the designs in the movie has quirks. I would love to see more lore of the Krakens and Agatha's life on land for the first time, now she found her husband Arthur. Honestly, I would advise watching my videos after you watch the movies. My things are mostly to get hindsight on a movie and the attributes that make it great, that maybe some people miss, not to replace your viewing experience. But I am happy that I managed to help your perception of art and animation. As an artist, I seriously think more people need to be aware of the process and dedication, and appreciate the art form more for it. Honestly, I appreciate that Chelsea wasn't just a shallow mean girl like you think, but was treated more nuanced, even if it was ultimately mostly manipulation. And yeah, it does seem to show a point about fake friends during this time, and how you really have to look at the ulterior motives coming from them. Honestly, yeah, Agatha's lore is seriously untapped potential, and is perfect to expand upon in the future. I just know these two have like a super wholesome love story. Kept seeing all the ads that make it seem like the movie was making fun of the live-action Little Mermaid movie, and thought the movie would be like that. Decided to watch the movie and see if it actually was, and I was surprised to find out it was all unintended, and I quite liked the movie when I saw. Then I saw your video on it, which made me appreciate it more, and also learned about literally everything stacked against this movie. I was probably one of the few people who learned about your existence through this movie. I think a TV and Netflix series of it would do really well. At least I'd watch it if it ever came to be. Honestly, that really doesn't work since movies take a lot longer than you think they do to make. And this movie alone was in development for like over 6 years. Movies take a really long time to make, and them coming out between months of each other is pure coincidence. Evident how Chelsea is really only a parody of the original Ariel, but entirely on just the design. Though glad you actually watched it and learned to appreciate it. And yeah, this movie does genuinely deserve a second and actually fair chance as it was robbed of one again and again. Gosh, where do I even start? There's a ton of reasons why I love Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. I consider it to be DreamWorks' best film. As a teen with social issues myself, I love the message about self-acceptance. Stating the obvious, the animation and especially the visuals are beautiful. I love the massive kaiju fight at the end of the movie. I'm a sucker for giant kaiju monsters, and the movie just felt like an absolute treat for a kaiju fan like me. Every single character is likable and relatable, and the movie also reminded me of my childhood in a way. When I was 5 years old, me and my mother used to visit the beach to look for sea monsters, lol. To this day, I'm still in shock that a lot of people don't seem to like it. It truly is DreamWorks' best film. Oh, that's awesome. I don't consider it DreamWorks' objective best film. That would go for something like Prince of Egypt or How to Train Your Dragon. But still, it's my favorite movie for how much it personally spoke to me and how I related to it. I got other people see it the same exact way. Also, that childhood story is adorable. I honestly feel that one day the movie will get a proper resurgence, but we'll have to wait. Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is a movie I had been looking forward to back then when it first came out in 2023, because at the time there weren't really that many original movies in the sense of being its own thing without having to be attached to something else. And to say the movie is good is not really doing it justice. So I think I want to call it, it's really great. It has amazing and stunning animation, and a style that stands out from the rest, a story that's been told a few times, but it really knows how to tell it in the most unique way possible. It's a film I really wish got the love and attention it deserves. It's a film that really deserves to be in the Animation Hall of Fame. I give it about 5 stars, 9 out of 10, and for my personal score, I give it the animation stamp of approval. Yeah, as I said, I was drawn from the trailer. I love the concept so much, and it felt like an original idea I could super get behind. If only this movie did better, might have given us more original animated features, but again, everything was against it. Glad you liked it that much. I love seeing legitimate admiration for this movie. I love a lot about this movie. I love the art style, the squishy animation, the Gillman family dynamic, and the protagonist, who is one of my favorites in DreamWorks' entire filmography. I love how Ruby is socially anxious but well-meaning, and I love her relationship with the ocean. I love how she was entranced by it for so long when she finally gets into it. The experience is pure joy. It reminds me a lot of my experience as a transgender person, wanting to embrace femininity for most of my life, and when I finally did, it brought me immense joy, just like Ruby. I'd say a similar thing about Ruby hiding herself in the beginning, and when she finally opens up about her true self, she feels free. The plot twist may frustrate me because so much of the film was built around Ruby's relationship with Chelsea, which kind of gets discarded after the twist, but that doesn't ruin the movie for me. Hey, I'm glad you managed to find it relatable to your own experience being transgender. There's something in this movie I feel is universally relatable if people can look closer at it. I do think Ruby's journey of self-discovery and acceptance can fit perfectly to multiple other people growing up and realizing more about themselves. I can understand if people are jaded by Chelsea's hidden villainy because the friendship was so wholesome, even if there were hints throughout it.
I was so close.
This should be your first hint that Chelsea really, really is bad, where she's like, oh, you just got hurt really bad. Where's my thing?
Yeah.
But you have to acknowledge that Chelsea was pivotal to Ruby to learn to love herself and her potential, and ultimately gave her the resolve to stand up for herself and embrace her destiny to become a stronger person. Even after the betrayal, Ruby showed mercy on Chelsea multiple times, so I wouldn't say it's entirely discarded. She still has some affection for her despite what happened. I love the specific niche of media that focuses on non-humans seeking acceptance in a human school setting. Couple that with the concept with a lovely sea-themed aesthetic, a non-traditional superhero concept, and an adorable league, you got Ruby Gillman, one of my favorite DreamWorks movies. Ruby has got to be one of my favorite DreamWorks characters now. I adore her premise and arc, the slinky way she's animated in her interactions with their grungy friend group, family, and crush. I was sold by Ruby's panic, confusion, and eventual growth as she experiences the challenges in her life. I had a great time watching Ruby come to her own, gaining confidence, and be truly accepted by her peers. It's not often I'm able to come across other fans of this movie, so this is one of the few outlets where I can get to praise it. I really wish DreamWorks would do more with it in some capacity. It has amazing potential as an animated series. You know, now that you say it, I do love how the movie just crosses over and combines so many different concepts and themes, but I feel it did so perfectly. It's like such a unique approach to these ideas is one of the reasons I absolutely love it. And yeah, I can't get enough of Ruby as a protagonist. She's so damn lovable and relatable, and I love the story arc so much. It makes me happy that I can use this to actually reach out to people who like it, so that I can feel that I can resonate with them so much. I love Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken because it tells a simple story of someone trying to live an ideal life, but learning to accept that her life is extraordinary, all while dealing with peer pressure and finding herself caught in a long-standing rivalry she has to resolve. Ruby is a great protagonist to tell that message, and is played excellently by Lina Condor. The world and aesthetics of Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken are colorful and quirky. There are so many details that are too small to catch on a single watch, but makes the world feel so alive once they're noticed. The concept of good krakens versus evil mermaids is given a lot of depth, and has untapped potential if the sequel ever made. While Chelsea may seem like a one-dimensional villain at first, there's a a lot of dark implications surrounding her and the other mermaids that make her very intimidating when she finally shows her true colors. And of course, the mother-daughter aspect of the film is really well handled. It makes you understand why Agatha is the way she is. Overall, I definitely recommend this film to anyone who's a fan of DreamWorks. Yeah, I love the personal story it has. Like, to many, it's simple, but that's the point. It's a personal journey through the scope of a larger-than-life one. The parallels between sizes are literally a part of Ruby's character, trying to feel big in a life where she's told to stay small. I think they did a fantastic job. And I swear every time I watch this movie, I find a new detail in the background, in the art direction and design. It's just a good looking movie. I feel Chelsea really isn't as one note as people say. Like, it's hard to tell because you don't know how much he's saying is real. But they did confirm the Mermaid War did have a lot of casualties on both sides. And she did legitimately relate to Ruby's struggle. She was only after revenge for Agatha, not Ruby. Ruby was her pawn, but one she sympathized with. This was all on her. She was the only mermaid who wanted to continue the conflict and did it personally. And Ruby gave her multiple opportunities for peace, but she couldn't let go of her own obsession and vengeance. And yeah, Agatha and Ruby is such a fantastic dynamic that I love and deserve so much credit. I'm so glad other people see it this way. I just love Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken so much. Many of the characters were great, the locations looked amazing, and I felt the story was certainly good as well. I definitely see Ruby being very relatable in terms of wanting to fit in with everyone, trying to be normal, often trying to evaluate the problem, and just wanting to live her life freely. As for what I want to see more of, honestly I like to see more of the world that is yet to be seen. New friends and foes that Ruby hasn't met before, and maybe a bit more details about the history of the Krakens, including the conflict with other monsters, as well as the mermaids happen. I've certainly had several more thoughts, but I feel like this is mainly what I want to get my thoughts on. I watched the movie more times than I can count, and I would still watch it again, because I love it. I just certainly hope that my opinion on this movie can be acknowledged, since I also like how this movie got the hate it received. Hope that it will soon get the love and attention it deserves. Thanks for letting me share my thoughts on Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Hey, you got your chance here. Again, this world is so rich to explore, like what about these sea monster wars and how the Krakens rise out to be the de facto good guys? I mean, the movie does allude to the great gods being real, like what are the implications there? We do know the mermaid war has been going on for so long, but Narissa escalates it by using the trident to kill all Krakens. And honestly, I love if Ruby would get some other oceanic allies, like god, the potential there is so great. I also really got to know I'm not the only one who rewatches this movie a ton. I feel like this movie really did make a connection with people, and eventually one day, we'll be able to get the proper limelight like other DreamWorks movies did, but at least I can allow people to talk about it here. Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is one of my favorite films of 2023. It makes me feel great seeing the Krakens as heroes. The aspects I enjoy are the fact that the Krakens are not truly the bad guys in this film's universe, but the heroes of it, and finally the spectacular colors and special effects. I also like the backstory, the heartwarming moments like Connor and Ruby finally having a dance at prom. And of course, the very awesome final battle. But that's not the focus. Ruby's movie music has a nice ring to it, especially one of my favorite songs of the film, Rise by Freya Ridings. It also inspired me to work on projects related to Ruby Gillman, like my What If comic where Chelsea gets possessed by her own mother's spirit, rather than Chelsea being arrested in disguise. In short, it will truly hold a place in my oceanside heart. It deserved to be loved and adored by fans. If I'm enjoying the film, then so can you. To quote the guy in the 5 stages of watching a movie, criticizing a film is fine, but there's a certain point where you just need to lay back, relax, and clear your mind. So let's embrace the cinematic suspension of disbelief and simply enjoy the film. Oh, interesting. I do love hearing about this movie inspired people to make their own works. I think that again, this world is so ripe for potential. It's a great source of inspiration for more fan works to toy with newer different ideas. And yeah, I think this movie is super enjoyable if people can just put their cynicism behind them for a second. I've been a fan of this film since 2023, and I've seen it back on July 3rd with my sister, father, mother, and aunt, and the ex-boyfriend of my sister in Sinizana. Honestly, I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I really love Ruby Gillman as a character. I even had the Blu-ray of the film on Christmas of 2023, alongside Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish, and I've seen it a second time at my Uncle Angel's house for the night. Then I'm a fan of the characters of the film on Pen-Up, and I've seen it the third time in the Institute before lunchtime on May 2024. And then I've seen it for the late second anniversary on July 2nd, 2024. I even got my sister a Ruby Gillman shirt for her 21st birthday. Then I saw it again on August 8th alongside the first FNAF movie for the 10th anniversary of the franchise. I plan to see it for the 7th time and plan to do a folded collection of my Ruby Gillman drawings. Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is one of my favorite DreamWorks movies, alongside the Shrek franchise with Puss in Boots 1 and 2 included, Kung Fu Panda films, How to Train Your Dragon franchise, Trolls franchise, the Madagascar franchise, Captain Underpants, Dogman, Bad Guys 1 and 2, Wild Robot, and a lot more. I hope that one day this movie will get the recognition and love it deserves alongside a TV show, and if it did, well, I could see a sequel with that movie, but only time will tell, but I'm still going to support the film no matter what. And this movie makes me appreciate the Krakens, and I wish I didn't mess up the marketing. But either way, it's one of the best films I've seen in 2023, and I hope I can get a cult following like I did on Netflix back in February 2024. And I wish the best for the hopeful future of Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Wait, there was merchandise? Where'd you get that shirt? But it's really cute. I love to hear how many times you watch and enjoy the film, even from the start. I really love hearing the dedication fans have to this movie, and you hope that one day can really get a second chance. I think Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is so underrated and deserves so much better. I think Ruby Gillman herself is a fun and relatable protagonist because she is a girl who's trying to fit in and be normal while trying to live up to her grandmother's expectations. Even though it's a trope that has been done before, it's still one I think that is used well, which is why so many stories use it. I also think the animation is beautiful and charming. I love the way all the Kraken characters move, where they move and wiggle like real Krakens. I also love the kaiju action, it's really cool and dynamic, but you can see the scale of these giant women. I love the whole world building with the whole lore of the Krakens and mermaids, and while I do wish it was more explored, I don't think if given more sequels or spin-offs could flesh it out more. I also love how they treat the mother and daughter relationships, where both Ruby and their mom still love each other, but they just have trouble connecting due to their family secrets, which makes the conclusion much more earned as you learn to love each other's perspective. My only real flaw with Ruby Gillman is Chelsea. While I do like her as a character and adore her friendship with Ruby, I think her and Narissa should have been separate characters so the twist doesn't feel rushed. Overall, I love Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. It's a great movie, and while it's not my favorite DreamWorks movie, it still goes to the top 10 for me. Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is a good example of a movie that was screwed over by the marketing and animation community. I hate that nowadays movies like Ruby Gillman, Ellie, and Monsters vs. Aliens get trashed for being safe and generic, but other movies nowadays that fit that category technically, like the Super Mario Galaxy movie, a movie I enjoy but is a pretty generic story, or objectively terrible movies like the Minecraft movie, I know that's unanimated but still fits my argument, get free passes due to stupid memes or fan service. I also especially hate that the B movie gets a pass in the animation community due to stupid, dumb memes. Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken is also a movie that made me leave the animation community, and it was the best choice of my life. Yeah, pretty much the same for me. Honestly, I don't think the Chelsea twist was rushed. There were hints in the movie if you can pick up. Seeing Chelsea's ulterior motives and our backstory doesn't quite add up. It might have been for the best and the story probably would have been more loved if they did do that. And it kinda doesn't really work with the arc of Ruby standing up for herself if she doesn't have that big defiant moment after her personal loss. It's why I hate the rewrite mentality because there's a lot of other stuff you need to consider too. But you're totally right about the shitty animation community mindset that a flawed movie is a piece of garbage if it's not a perfected masterpiece. Like Puss in Boots 2 and Wild Robot are not put in a pedestal for the stupid ass animation is cinema mentality while constantly crapping on other animation and ignore the good qualities they have. I hate it. And yeah, I got into it in the dance party video, but I hate how irony points exist. Like, if you like movies like B-Movie or Shark Tale, that's fine. But I hate how they're giving stupid irony points for memes that people put them in higher regard, but then crap on the objective better movies despite that. It's an awful double standard that needs to die. And honestly, the animation community gets worse and worse every day. I just pray somehow it gets better, and I really hope I can somehow help to change that. I like this movie in many ways. First of all, the characters are well developed and unique, even the minor ones. Moreover, almost all the characters don't look caricatured, as their actions are logical and somewhat plausible. Of course, this also applies to Ruby Gillman herself. Her wit, modesty, and kind heart captivated me. In my opinion, she's one of the best main characters in DreamWorks movies. Secondly, the plot of the film, though it is not the highest form of screenwriting, does not make it any less effective. Simple plots that do not strive to create 1,000 plot twists often tell the story better, as they focus on the characters, their relationships, and the ideas that are explored, which this film does exceptionally well. Thirdly, the visual effects of the film, despite not having the biggest budget, are simply great. The 3D models are both very simple and yet work to the smallest detail. Thanks to this, the visual style looks unique and is very memorable, especially this applies to the design of the characters, which are not confused with the characters from other films. The design of Ruby and her family are very cute, and tells about them all without words, and the design of Ruby in her form of a giant kraken is, in my opinion, the most beautiful image in all of DreamWorks films in general. Moreover, few people talk about it, but I like to highlight the amazing work with light. The light in Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken looks a lot more realistic than in most modern animated films. Its brightness and saturation depend on the time of day, and depending on this, as well as the light source, it looks completely different, which is especially noticeable in the ocean. I know people who criticize this movie for making the ocean too dark so you can't see anything in it, but I think it's great because the ocean depths are in a sunny place by nature, and making them this dark is a clever move that adds realism to the movie. Plus, Ruby's bioluminescence looks amazing in the dark. Fourth, the music. I'm not a music expert, but I wouldn't surprise anyone by saying the film's soundtrack is one of the most beautiful and authentic soundtracks in recent years feature-length animation. This includes both the songs that are perfectly integrated into the film and seamlessly woven into the narrative, as well as the regular musical themes that perfectly capture the mood of the scenes and characters. My favorite song is Rise by Freya Ridings. My favorite musical theme is Ruby's theme. And finally, fifthly, what struck me in the film almost as much as the characters is the world building. The Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken universe is, in my opinion, perhaps the most underrated part of the film, and I'm not just talking about the idea that Krakens are the protectors of the ocean, and that only some of them are giant and have superpowers. While this is certainly great, it's not what I'm referring to. Usually in most animated films, especially the original one, world building is treated as something important for the plot, but it's not delved in any deeper than necessary for the story. However, this is not the case here. In this film, the world building is both an important part of the story and as a regular background that adds depth to the world. For example, the story of the Trident War is a plot device necessary to reveal the past of Agatha and Nerissa. However, the mentions of Leviathans and Umibozu, who once fought against the Krakens, is an interesting fact that expands expands upon this universe. The deep lore of the film gives this universe a larger scope than it actually is, introducing it to something that is a part of a larger and more expansive story, which is the foundation for expanding this universe. Here's a summary of why I love this movie and continue to celebrate its 3rd anniversary. Yeah, honestly, I hate when people diss on the narrative for being simple. There's nothing wrong with having a simple story. Expecting a big epic all the time is a very toxic attitude, and films should be allowed to have more low-key plots. It's a consequence of putting movies on a pedestal like that. But yeah, I have gone for so long the movie's amazing use of lighting colors, the contrast of the deep dark ocean with the bioluminescence of Ruby and the other Krakens, to the use of color and lighting in the kingdom. It's so damn gorgeous and atmospheric. Not to mention the awesome lights in the Well of Seas. Like, how can people say this looks bad? They're genuinely insane. And yeah, the music too. Yeah, the original songs are awesome, from the voice ones to the instrumental, and how many aspects of this movie get ignored. And yeah, honestly, while this movie does get some flack for not developing the world enough, like, they do give enough to sell the world and integrate it to the core plot and characters. Like, why don't more people realize it? Thanks for your thoughts. Hi, English isn't my first language, so sorry for any mistakes. I'll describe one of my interpretations and list a couple of smaller things, okay? So bear with me. I kind of think the movie tackles grooming. Real and Shelby fans and Chelsea Redemption fans, don't kill me, it's just an interpretation. Because we see Ruby as a teenager with imposter syndrome, feeling guilty about her lying and having to hide who she really is. Her family isn't really supportive when it comes to her fears, specifically her mom, who brushes off her uncertainty at the beginning of the movie. Even before she trashes the library, this hatred of Krakens exists and causes her additional fears. She is vulnerable and kind of doesn't have a proper support system. What's with their family brush her off and her friends who she can't tell the truth to. And then comes the big moment, her transformation, which is a breaking point as well. Now everything piles up on her. The imposter syndrome, guilt of lying and guilt of wrecking her city, her confusion, and most of all, loneliness. Even though her family and friends do truly love her, they don't really understand her, including her grandma. She is the most vulnerable and lost as she ever was. And then there comes Chelsea. Chelsea was kind of popular and charming and funny, who understands, who doesn't try to force her to go one way or another, who knows all of Ruby's secrets without judging or minimizing her pain. Of course he latches onto her, and so the two have fun, and without Ruby noticing, Chelsea actually isolates her from her friend group. Ruby already distanced herself from her family, her mom, and now her friends are gone. The only one left is Chelsea, who, let me remind, is the only one who knows everything about Ruby. You know what happens later. Chelsea steered Ruby to accepting the training as well as finally getting the trident. The betrayal happens far away from Ruby's home, friends, and family. She is alone with Chelsea and she is betrayed and broken. She stays there, hidden, in pain, scared, and humiliated until her uncle finds her. Now with the synopsis, my point is that this interpretation is also supported by the fight scene, where Ruby kinda can't win alone. She has to finish Chelsea off with her mom and grandma. And that's my favorite part. Not because of the awesome and giant fight, but also because the recovery for someone older and stronger basically using you and isolating you is hard, but can be made easier with rekindling your previously lost relationship with other adults. Chelsea being basically an adult will probably make it difficult for Ruby to trust other adults for a time, but the fight scene unites and builds trust again between Ruby and her parental figures. I know this is a much darker and maybe even unintentional reading of the movie, but as someone whose best friend was groomed in a similar way as Ruby, and don't pretend to be a teen online to isolate them for their own gain, it gives me hope that possibly children watching this will know that you can count on your friends and family, give them a chance at understanding you, and that after an awful older person tried taking advantage of you, you can still make it out on the other side alive and happy and healed. I know my friend could have benefited from these messages. I also really like this movie for a couple additional reasons. These are pop songs, not for cheap fan service, but actual immersive storytelling, tied to the reasoning above. For introducing me to the Lindas, the fun and wacky friend group that actually believe, love, and have history with Ruby, tied to the above reason. The goth friend not being in heavy makeup, and overall not being conventionally hot. I respect every hot goth girl lover out there, but a little variety is nice. The captain having a redemption arc thanks to the power of friendship. Ruby having a seemingly perfect life but still struggling in a believable way. Ruby being adorable. I love teen leads like that. I'm sorry. The pace of the movie not being brain-rottingly fast. I think that's a me problem. For some reason I watch a lot of breakneck-paced movies and shows. The design of the giant Krakens, their bioluminescence and armor-like bodies. I don't know how to describe it. They just look like they're wearing armor to me. The I'm not evil, I'm just pretty and misunderstood. I quote this every day, not gonna lie. The lore behind the Krakens and the Gillman family, there's just so much fun and believable details crammed into them. There's probably more that I will come up with later when I'm trying to sleep, but yeah, I am glad this movie was made. It's certainly a fun time. Hope for a possible 2D and animated by Flying Bark Studio TV show. Honestly, this is a really good analysis. A lot of Ruby's own insecurity comes from her parents and society trying to suppress her and make her transformations all the more horrifying, being a massive unruly monster who accidentally destroys what she touches. I feel the imposter syndrome comes from when they're learning about her true heritage and purpose, and not feeling that she's up to it and has to learn to accept it. And the, well, manipulation you can say was intentional by the writers, who outright confirmed that Chelsea was working like a siren song to goad Ruby to abandon her life and responsibility, but ultimately it was for her own goals.
We felt like this was actually kind of our way of showing a siren song. Chelsea was really listening to Ruby and giving her what she wanted, a shortcut to being able to both live her life on land and live her life in the sea.
She didn't realize that she was being used and was basically goaded to abandon who she is. And it's what makes the breakdown hit more, because she was pretty much alone and abandoned those who actually cared for her, but was given the determination and drive to fight the villain of her entire life. And yeah, as bad as your friend's story was, it's important to show that this manipulation is very real and harmful, especially when you're a teenager. Honestly, you did a really good job diving into the movies and the themes and motives, like I think more than most people. Also personally, I love a Kipo style show. I mean, that's already about a quirky and somewhat autistic girl who turns into a giant kaiju, perfect. I like Ruby Gillman for a lot of reasons. Firstly, Ruby reminds me of the kid I was, shy and a little uncertain of the world. I actually liked learning but didn't really enjoy school. Few friends and worried that as soon as the other kids found out it was weird, I'd be bullied mercilessly. I love that Ruby is her own person. Oh, she's quirky and weird, but that's just a part of her. Her reactions to discovering what she is are completely understandable. You can see how frightened she is, but she's still trying to keep control and not hurt anyone. The thing I love the most about this film is how relatable everyone is. Agatha is just trying to give Ruby the freedom for a life of her own, but her past means that she's more controlling than she thinks. But you can see how deeply she cares and worries for Ruby when Ruby has her first chance to a Kraken. She abandons a lucrative sale, which we know is the next stage in her career, to chase after Ruby. When she catches up, there's no anger, no blame, just worry for Ruby and she's okay. That moment in the mist where Ruby is falling apart is a standout for me. She feels safe to tell her mother the truth, to be honest and cry because of that trust. Agatha listens and comforts her daughter, helping her remember a good time in her life when the sea wasn't scary. It gave her the chance to meet a whale. That bond between mother and daughter is so rare in media. More drama comes from infighting, and they do end up arguing over Agatha's choices and Ruby wants now that she's grown up. But they establish there is a bond between them which is solid. It won't break easily. Her father is the emotional heart of the family, which again is rare in media. I like that both adult male Krakens are emotionally sensitive, supporting the woman in their lives with love, respect, and the best they can give, even if it's not always right in the case of Brill. Margot, Trevor, Bliss, and Connor are the same. While it's clear Ruby isn't your average teen, finding out she's a Kraken could have caused a serious rift, but they accept her and the fact that she's not human. It's a feel-good movie, I expected them to do so, but it's still so good to see that bond. Even Gordon Lighthouse shows remorse when he understands the Krakens aren't dangerous. He offers an apology, which I honestly didn't expect. He becomes a supporter for them, even taking on Brill, which has to make the tours more entertaining, and given Brill's impressive ability to get into trouble. Chelsea's an amazing villain. While the ads for the film ruined any surprise, she still comes across as a sympathetic character who's trying to understand Ruby, even if they are the kind of people who would get along normally. Yes, it's a ruse, but the sheer amount of fan work showing Chelsea changed her mind and actually following through on the ideas that she and Ruby had of no more fighting between the underwater races shows how powerful the performance was. The humor is just fun. Line says as, "I almost asked Connor out with homework," and it destroyed the zombie teen romance section. The zombie teen romance section still make me smile. I saw the film with my best friend who was a librarian, and even she admitted that this would be the first thing she worried about if anything got destroyed at the library she works at. It's a film that respects the female characters. In fact, it respects all the characters. Women in power are frequently portrayed as monsters, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, etc., while men who show care and understanding are somehow weak and can't be trusted to lead in anything. But Arthur does lead. When Agatha is worried about Ruby not talking to her and that she's more like her mother than she ever wanted to be, he offers her support and leads Sam and Brill when they are sent to Gordon to sabotage his Kraken hunt. His sole goal is to look after his family and giving them the space they need to be safe and happy. Brill's kindness and open pride in who his sister is gives Ruby the will to get back up after being betrayed. His confidence in saying what he says without fear that it will lead him to being mocked is a powerful example of what a real family bond is. The female characters are a powerhouse not due to their size, but their values in mind as well. The choice to make them Krakens, a mythical creature frequently associated with the destruction of ships and male sailors, is a really interesting take. As someone who loves cephalopods, it drew me in, but it was the characters and the world they inhabit that made the biggest impact. It's unusual that in Ruby's romance with Connor is a subplot rather than the main focus of the movie. So much of the media marketed towards female demographic focuses on the romance almost to the exclusion of anything else, while Connor is the catalyst for Ruby discovering what she is. The relationship isn't the movie's focus. Instead, it's the three main focus characters working out what they want. The Sea Queen reconnecting with her lost family members and coming to understand her bond with them is more important than her pride. Agatha having the courage to let Ruby choose her own path rather than protecting her at the expense of their bond, and Ruby discovering where she came from and what she wants for her future. I still view how the movie was handled as a farce, because this film wasn't what the marketing executives were used to. They had no idea what to do with it. The marketing was abysmal, the time of its release was almost guaranteed to see it decimated by the competition, and it trashed the film that deserved far greater credit than it received. I'd love to see more media of it. Not just cartoons, but comics and books too, and maybe some merch. I have the art book of the film. Highly recommend it. The art style and some of the original ideas are really interesting. But it would have been nice to have a plus of the main characters or some key rings, just so people around me could spot it and remember the film. It might just encourage them to watch it again. Again, fantastic analysis. I didn't even realize some of that stuff. But yeah, definitely, like, I found it incredibly relatable when I was that age, and I feel it's the same for so many other people. But I love how no one's, like, mean to her. It just wants the best for her. Even her mom and grandma, who have very different ideas, no one's really bad in that area. I love the entire family dynamic so much, just, ugh. In a world where so much of the modern drama is from overprotective family members, I love one that's so down to earth and entirely well-meaning all throughout. Same thing with her friends, they would have always accepted her no matter what. It goes to the theme that ultimately, it's Ruby's own insecurities and lack of confidence in herself that's holding her back, and she needs to overcome it. Also, I feel that Captain Lighthouse single-handedly destroys the stupid racism argument, because like he had an entire character arc to stop judging the Krakens off of superstition and accept them as people. It does really say something, that like twist villains have gotten such a bad reputation, mostly thanks to one guy. But Chelsea is like one of the few I can think of where the connection was so real, it genuinely hurt when she was revealed that a ton of the fans just don't accept it. Like, when have you ever seen a twist villain do that? When did it make you actually care? And yeah, Ruby needs to be in the talk of powerful female animated leads because this girl's pretty much unbeatable once trained, and her character arc and determination is just so fantastic. And yeah, I appreciate that while Ruby's crush was a thing, it's more so for her own character arc and not really the focus. Just, again, another example that she needs to be more confident in herself and take control of her life. I just think that like every character in this movie was done super well. Also, again, really great analysis here. I appreciate seeing other like-minded people. I do just wish somehow we can add more to this franchise. And to the last response for the video, hi Shady, I go by Ruby Gillman on YouTube, and I actually discovered your channel through your Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken video essays. It was really neat to discover another person who adores the movie as much as I did, but that's besides the point. What I want to share is, like you specified, how I feel about Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. If I may be honest, I'm unsure where to start. This movie means so much to me on so many levels, and that my love for it has only grown since the release of June of 2023. I remember when I first saw the trailer, and despite the fact that it relentlessly spoiled the entire movie, I was still hooked right away. When the release date for the movie finally came out, you believe that I was there on the first showing at the day at my local movie theater, and the movie was everything I hoped it would be and then some. At the time, I was discovering my overall appreciation for sea creatures and ocean aesthetics, and more specifically, cephalopods in general. So a film that has all of that at the forefront with cephalopod-like main characters was already a huge plus in my book. Next is the movie's art style. The aquatic nautical themes in the scenery and architecture is eye-candy in the best ways. It makes me wish I could live in the city of Oceanside more than anything. Heck, the street crossing signs are portrayed as schools of fish, the windows to all the houses are portholes, and as you point out, the overall city has a bath-to-a feel to it that makes everything so charming, welcoming, and fun. The underwater segments are spectacular too. As you mentioned, most of them take place in the very deep water, so naturally they're very dark, with at times the only light source being Ruby's bioluminescence in her Mega Kraken form. Also, I'd be remiss if I forgot to mention the character designs, in particular the Krakens themselves. I love how squishy, stretchy, and lanky they are. Like, it's easy to buy that these characters are cephalopods and therefore have no bones. Then there's the movie's soundtrack. Both the licensed and original tracks are great and suit the movie to a T. My personal favorites are the two standout original songs, This Moment and Rise. The latter plays during the end credits and not only describes Ruby's journey in the film, but could pertain to anyone struggling with self-identity or self-worth. After all, one of the song's best lyrics is, I was who I always needed, even when I couldn't see it. Beautiful. But most of all though, is the use of transforming to a sea monster kaiju as a fantastic metaphor for both puberty and coming of age, dealt with a neurodivergent coded protagonist in Ruby, as well as portraying the Krakens as noble protectors and mermaids as evil narcissists. A clever concept for what sounds like a story I would conjure up, quite frankly. And Ruby herself, by God, she's possibly one of my favorite fictional characters ever. She's shy, introverted, awkward, geeky, sweet, neurodivergent maybe, fascinated with sea life, and wanting so hard to personally discover what type of person she is and what she wants to be. Not only that, but she's a giant Kraken, my favorite mythical sea creature, with downright gorgeous colors and adorable design and awesome powers. Put all that together, and you have a character that's not only endearing and relatable, but inspiring. And for someone like me who struggled all his life to find a fictional character that hits those personal points in just the right ways, it's monumental. I'm a neurodivergent, introverted sea creature obsessed geek myself, and though I'm obviously not a teenage Kraken girl, I can definitely relate to Ruby. Then there's Chelsea the Mermaid. Since he's intended to be an evil foil to Ariel from Disney's The Little Mermaid, this is a not so subtle jab at Disney from DreamWorks. As someone who has long loathed Disney as a company, seeing them being poked fun at like this using a main villain character is the icing on the cake. To me, Chelsea is an excellent allegory to Disney as a whole. On the surface, beautiful, wholesome, and good. Below the surface, toxic, vain, narcissistic, and downright evil. In fact, after she was revealed to be the evil mermaid queen Nerissa, I interpreted her fake friendship with Ruby as an act of grooming, isolating Ruby from her friends and family, and tricking her to betraying them by retrieving the trident of Oceanus, and thereby granting Nerissa the weapon and power to take revenge. She knew exactly how to manipulate Ruby on all levels, appealing to her naive side by pretending to understand and sympathize with her plight. It's quite creepy when you think about it. Thankfully, Ruby was able to stop Nerissa at the end with help of her mom and grandma. thereby bridging a generational divide between the woman and her family. I like to think after that climactic kaiju fight, Nerissa was imprisoned at the local Oceanside Aquarium where tourists pay to see the real-life mermaid in captivity or something. The downside to all of this is that the movie flopped, and now the only reason mainstream creators even talk about it was how much of a flop it was, which is a real shame. This movie has so much more to offer than most in the animation community give credit for, and loads of potential for future content. A sequel, a TV series, a video game, a graphic novel, and merchandise. I did manage to get my hands on some fan-made plushies of Ruby in her normal form and Mega Kraken form off of Etsy. They're some of my most prized possessions, but the lack of official Ruby Gillman merch still makes me sad. I do have the impressive art book though, and probably display it on my bookshelf. Personally, and I know I'm not alone on this, I die to see a Ruby Gillman TV series come to fruition. There's more than enough story ideas, characters, and lore that could be explored in a Netflix show or something, and people like us fans will guarantee the show will have an audience. We're out here waiting, DreamWorks. You made a freaking Boss Baby show, you can make a Ruby Gillman show. I suppose if I were to critique a few things about the movie, they'd be, the movie's a bit short and I think it could have benefited with a few more extra minutes. I would have liked to see Ruby interact with more sea creatures during the underwater segments, like maybe some DC fish or something. Could have played up Ruby's fascination with sea life more. Ruby and Connor are cute together, but could have used more emphasis on what they like about each other. Would have liked to see and learn more about the various sea monsters the movie teases, but that could be expanded upon in a future TV series, hopefully. I want to conclude my thoughts by saying that reaching out to the Ruby Gillman fanbase about their thoughts and feelings about the movie to celebrate a 3rd year anniversary is an amazing idea, Shady. And note my comments will be included in the potential video. Thanks for reading, all the best. Honestly, dude, I feel like the same on virtually every aspect. I'm very happy you found my content, but I really appreciate all your writing for it. Like, I agree with virtually everything you said in this regard. It's nice to see another content creator that feels the same passion I have. I just really hope that, yeah, somehow, in some way, all this manages to work out right in the end. But at least from this, I was able to get your thoughts and everyone else's I was able to include for it in the video. And that should be about it. Yeah, I did have to cut some out for appropriateness, and if I didn't think I had what to say about them. I wish I could do even more, but again, thanks to circumstances outside of my control, I couldn't spread the form as much as I wanted to. I'm really sorry about that. But yeah, even if this video wasn't as big or important as I wanted, thanks to those reasons, and just time to do this at the anniversary with my work-life balance, I'm at least happy I was able to do it. But honestly, the replies I saw, I was really surprised. Like, I did not think I would get so many people who understood the much deeper meanings and facets of this movie that I did. As I said in the beginning, with everything with the reception, I legitimately thought that I was the only one who truly understood this movie. The deeper themes, qualities, relatability, message, just everything that got me totally invested and loving the story. I just figured more people liked what it wasn't, like for Shelby shippers or just that it was cool. The fact that so many people told me how they related to this movie the same way I did, Ruby's struggles, the themes of growing up and self-acceptance, the beautiful artistry, and how the narrative and characters were handled, it gave me just a reassuring feeling that I can't describe. It made me realize this community-focused video did something that my other videos couldn't. Gave me another perspective on this movie, and seeing it through another fan's eyes. I don't know if these are the same people who watched my videos and just adopted what I said in my own analysis, but the fact that I saw so many people appreciate this movie for the actual core values, the things about it that I truly loved it, and why I keep fighting for it, it shows that I wasn't alone. People did understand the depths of this movie and appreciate it for that. It gave me hope that this fandom and community is more like-minded than I thought. And if enough people manage to see it that way, and can spread their feelings and thoughts about it enough, I do feel this movie get more appreciation, love, and respect that it so rightfully deserves. Because if there's anything this movie wants to say, is that there's always more to something under the surface.